Hey everyone, Tracy here. I am so excited about getting these videos started. So what I want to do for this first video is give you a little history about how this all came about. And then every week I hope to do this. Every week I hope to bring you a little story from my life, okay? So many years ago when I worked at St. Jude, on break and on lunch, we would sit around the table and we would just tell about what happened that day in our life or something. And everybody would always get a kick about what happened to me in my life. And it's just like, I don't know how this is happening, but it always turned out to be funny. And so one of the girls at St. Jude said, hey, you should write a book. And I was like, I'm not much of a writer. I don't think that would be a good idea. So I sort of just dismissed that idea. Well, I ended up changing professions. I started teaching in college. And before classes, we'd sit around the table and have our coffee in the morning, or we would all get together and have lunch in the lunchroom. And so we would tell stories about life happening and stuff. And somebody else came to me one time and said, hey, you know what? You should write a book about all these memories. And I'm like, I'm not much of a writer. I said, I don't think that would be a good idea. So as the years went by, YouTube became really popular, started watching some vlogs and stuff. And so then I got to thinking, I'm like, okay, well, I'm not much of a writer. I said, but I could vlog my stories on YouTube. So that's where the idea started. About 3 or 4 years ago, we had gone on a trip to Branson. On the way back, we were in the car, me and my kids and my sister, and we did like a little snippet of a video. And so got a kick out of that. And I thought, you know, that might be a good idea. I could do videos and put those up on YouTube and tell the stories of things that have happened in life. And so that's where I started entertaining the idea of a YouTube channel and doing videos. So, you know how you'll think of something like that, and then you'll finally dismiss it and stuff and say, oh, maybe I will, or maybe I won't. Well, my dad passed away a couple of years ago, and as I was going through his things, he had a bunch of stuff that he had actually gathered for a family tree or a genealogy map of our family. And in this bunch of stuff, I actually found some little micro cassettes of where he had interviewed some family members for his family tree. And so I said, well, I'll listen to those someday. So one day I got them out and I started listening to them. And of course I started crying because I heard my dad's voice. And I was like, how precious is this to be able to hear my dad's voice, even though he's already gone, that I can go back and listen to his voice on these little cassette tapes. And it just became really special to me. And then that made me start thinking about these vlogs even more. It's like, okay, this would be great for my grandbabies to have, of me telling things that have happened throughout my life and, of course, throughout their parents' lives. And so I said, yep, I'm going to do that. And, of course, the people at work know. Of course, I tell them stories all the time. And I'm like, you know, I'm going to put that on my vlog someday. And I tell them another story. I'm going to put that on my vlog someday. And so everybody keeps telling me, hey, you should get that vlog started. So that is where this all came about. I am going to get started today. I'm excited about sharing with you. And so as I was writing down all the ideas of all the things that have happened to me through life and stuff, I had a story about church. Now, one of the things is you're going to find throughout these videos is that I want all that I say and do to point to Him. Now, let's talk about how that came about. As I was trying to decide on what to name my YouTube video, I asked my Facebook friends, hey, what should I name my YouTube channel if I had a YouTube channel? So people started giving me some different ideas. They said Mimi's Memories, Tracy's Memories. One of my friends said Tracy's Tidbits, and I didn't like that one. So just a whole bunch of different names came in. I wasn't really happy with any of them. Morris's Moments, you know, there was just so many. And I was just like, no, I don't like any of those. Well, so what I started doing is I started praying and asking God, God, what would you want me to name this? And so what you're going to find throughout these videos, and if you're not a spiritual person, you may not want to watch, because I'm going to do a lot of alluding to my spiritual life, spiritual aspects, spiritual lessons, those types of things. And I told God, I said, God, I want everything that I do to point to you. And I'm going to try not to cry. But there's a lot of things that we go through in life that make us the person that we are. And a lot of the trials and tribulations that we go through makes us better people, makes us closer to God, those types of things. And so I just kept saying, I just want it to point to you. I just want it to point to you. And so that's what I'm going to name my YouTube channel, is I'm going to name it Pointing to Him, because I want all that I say and do to point to Him. And that's what today's little story is about. So I want to get started in telling this story. So today's story comes from an illustration that was used in church. How many of you have heard illustrations like in either a motivational speech or at church, and you'll never forget the illustration, because we know that we learn oftentimes through illustrations. So this actually happened at a church that I was going to. A new pastor had came to our church, had taken over the position of an older pastor who had retired, or actually was just going to go on to something else. And so so let me set this up. We were at church. I had just sang a special. I sang in church. And during the song, I had actually started crying, surprise. And so my nose was running. I was crying. I finished the song. And so I come down from the podium, and I was going to walk around the pews and go to the restroom, blow my nose and straighten my face and stuff. Now, what I didn't know was that Brother Brian was actually starting to give the directions for an illustration that he was going to use in his sermon that day. So so this is all going on while I'm in the bathroom. So I have no idea of the illustration that he is going to be using. He has a simple piece of notebook paper. Now, what he tells all the members of the church to do, or all the people in the church, is to take this piece of paper, and I'm going to use the one I've already printed up, and he said, wad the piece of paper up, and then take the piece of paper and flatten it out. Okay? So we flatten the piece of paper out, okay? And then you're going to pass it to the next person, and they're going to do the same thing. All right? Now, so you have to understand that this church has 4 sections of pews. Big church, lots of people. And so when I came back in, I sat in the first section of pews, okay? So I'm sitting on the very edge over here by my daughter, Nicole, and we're sitting in the pew. Well, when I was in the bathroom, and I'm going to start laughing, I can't help it. When I'm in the bathroom, the paper has already started going through all the people right in front of me. And when I come in and sit down, the piece of paper has made it to the guy in front of me. So he's already wadded it up and he's flattened it out and stuff. And I sit down and I'm still sniffling a little bit. And he takes the piece of paper and he passes it back to me. So by the time I get this piece of paper, it's real soft and everything. I think the guy is passing me a Kleenex. So what I do is I take the illustration and I wipe my nose on it. Well, as soon as I started wiping my nose on it, Nicole, she takes her elbow and she jabs me really, really hard. She's like, and I'm like, what? And she's like, and she takes the piece of paper from me and she leans over and says, Mom, that's Brother Brian's illustration. I went, I didn't know. And she says, what am I supposed to do with this now? And I said, pass it on. So she passes the piece of paper on to the next person, which of course they're way down the pew. They hadn't seen what I had done or anything. And so now this illustration, which is this piece of paper that now has my snot on it, is being passed through the church, and everybody's winding it up, flattening it out, passing it to the next person. So it goes through all four sections of the pews in church to the last person over on the other side. Brother Brian comes down from the podium, and by this time he's preached his sermon. He walks down, gets the piece of paper, brings it back up to the podium. He flattens it back out, right, flattens it out. And he holds it up. Well, of course, this paper is, of course, very soft, pliable, has all these wrinkles in it. And right in the middle, of course, is a hole where my snot had been. And he says, this piece of paper illustrates our lives as we go through our trials and tribulations. We may get all wrinkled up, and we can even get broken, and he points to the hole where my snot had been. He says, we're soft and pliable, he says, and that's how our lives are. We learn from that. Those trials and tribulations that bring us, bring rough times and all that. And all I'm thinking was, I think I need to go get a bottle of Germ-X and pass it out to the church, because nobody knows they've all touched my snot on this piece of paper. So, to say the least, for a long, long time, Nicole and I were the only ones that knew about the illustration and me blowing my nose on it. I finally told a few people. I don't even think I ever told Brother Brian what I had done and what it had done to the piece of paper. But truly, as we go through life, and that's what I was saying earlier, as we go through life, yes, those trials and tribulations can change us, make us different, make us look different, right? But it also helps us to become the people that we are. But most of all, to look to Jesus, to look to Him for our strength, our guidance, all those types of things. So, as I end my videos for the next few weeks, I don't know how many weeks it's going to be. I know I have a list of probably over 50 things. But as we go through these stories and stuff, and I want to end my video saying, today, as you go through life and those trials and tribulations, I just want you to point to Him. Have a good day, and I hope to see you next week with a new story. See ya.